Now, at least 9 people are dead after flash flooding and torrential rain lashed parts of Italy.
Another 6 people are missing. Nick Brown was literally caught up in the flooding and he joins us now from Florence via webcam. Nick, good to talk to you. How are you doing?
Not too bad, given the circumstances. Thanks, Virginia.
Yes, indeed. And the circumstances sound pretty rough. If it's OK, I'm just going to get you to take us through what happened. You were going to do a walk, weren't you, between Monterosso and Vernazza, near where you are, and that day. But the bad weather forced you and your girlfriend to turn back.
Yeah, that's right. We started out on the walk, but quickly realised that the weather was a lot worse than even the forecast said. The lightning and thunderstorms were quite heavy, so we turned around and headed back and then spent some time in the hotel room just sort of relaxing, waiting for it to pass and hoping to be able to get out and see a bit of the side later on that day, but not even that eventuated.
We're actually looking at we're looking at some pictures now that you took of the aftermath of the floods. But before we get to there, let's just stay with the timeline of what you're telling us. So you went back to the town of Monterosso and you crossed the road and went across the road to a little restaurant, a trattoria, for lunch.
Yeah, that's correct.
What happened
we crossed
there?
over the main road via Roma and got into a lovely little restaurant where the staff in there were inundated with people I think had the same idea as us, just to take a bit of shelter until the weather passed. But soon after that, a bit of water started coming in under the door, and the owners were very concerned because they hadn't had rain like that for quite some time. She said she'd been there 30 years and never had water come in, and then it quickly turned into almost a river running past their front door. So we went from sort of helping them sweep up the mess to trying to hold the door closed as this torrent of water just screamed past the front of the restaurant.
And you were there with others actually trying to hold the door of that restaurant against that torrent of water.
That's right, yeah, working elsewhere, trying to keep the place shut up and dry. And myself and another Australian guy, Ricky Leonard, who end up spending the last sort of 48 hours with him and his wife. We met in the sun and sort of going to hold the door closed for the better part of an hour and a half or so as the water was almost forcing the door open. Eventually, people had to get into the kitchen to be evacuated out through the back door, which was quite a step up. It's sort of about a metre that people had to try and climb out of. So it took a long time to get everyone out that back door.
Nick, we see your line is I'm sorry to jump in there. Your line is breaking up from time to time, and we are losing you a little bit. But I'm going to persist for just a little bit longer because I know you stayed for quite some time with other people trying to keep that door shut against the rising water. How high was the water when it finally burst in through those doors and through the restaurant?
Well, the water seemed to it was rising back up the street, which is the opposite of what water normally does. So by the time it hit the restaurant, the water would have been about 1 metre to 1.5 metres high. It was forcing on the door and forcing the door back open. So we held it for as long as we could to let as many people out the back door of the kitchen before it. Rick and I we had to move. Well, eventually the water moved us. The water just forced the door open and we got pushed into the kitchen and then had to wait as everyone else was getting out the back until we could eventually get out and had to help some of the waiting staff and the owners eventually pull them through. Liz in particular dragged a waiter out at the last minute. He was about to be pulled back in. So it was touch and go there.
Just extraordinary. So, but everyone got out safely and no one sustained any injuries there, Nick?
No, everyone, a few cuts and bruises and scratches from our lot. We had about 35 people, I think, that got out through the back eventually. But yeah, it was very close indeed.
This is not what you expect on your lovely holiday in Italy and through Tuscany, is it?
No, that's right. We weren't expecting this at all. My family have been there before and told me how lovely the place was, and unfortunately, we didn't see it in the same circumstances. I would have loved to get around and see it in the beautiful daylight with smaller winds and slightly less water.
Well, that's right, where it can be very beautiful. Just very quickly, just to wrap this up. So, do the floods mean the end of your tourism? Is that it? Is you're going to head home now or try and tough it out?
No, not quite. Most of my friends who are watching at home will realise that natural disasters seem to follow me around. I haven't had a lot of luck when I'm travelling, so yeah. If anything, it just adds to more stories. You gotta keep travelling. These things happen.
Nick Brown, you're the dinner party guest to have, clearly, with the yarns you might have. Listen, good luck. Stay dry. Thanks for talking to us.
All right, thanks, Virginia.
And we were looking at some of the pictures there that Nick actually took in the aftermath of the floods, and you could see the exterior of that restaurant that he was talking about. That was the pink exterior, and you saw all the crud and the silt and the rubbish that had just been, washed up and banked up against that restaurant. But what an astonishing experience. And you can visualise it, can't you? These two Aussie guys literally leaning against, the glass doors of a restaurant trying to keep this torrent outside, and eventually it just pushes them in.